I have so many resources, and I have so many resources because I have such amazing teachers that I work with. I get such wonderful ideas that I'm able to share with other teachers because you guys are out there doing the hard stuff on the front line. So I really want to just right up front tell you how much I respect the work you're doing in the classroom and the challenges that you're facing right now. And because of those challenges, we need active classroom. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you ways to leverage the tools that are available in active classroom that are going to benefit your students and that will make your life a whole lot easier. So let's get started. Oh, it's not wanting to move. There we go. Okay. So first of all, I want to know if you have any burning questions. And what I want you to do is I want you to type those right on the screen. And if you're not familiar with the annotate tool, this is what you're going to do. So up at the top, it'll say you are viewing Carol Hill's screen, and it says view options. So if you'll find that, click on the down arrow, you will get a menu that drops down, and you want to find annotate on that drop down menu. Once you find that, click on it, and you will find a toolbar like this one here. And you're going to click on text, and that will make a text box up. Click on text, then click on the screen, and it will create a text box, and just start typing in it and click outside the box when you're done. So everybody find your view options. On the drop-down menu, go to annotate, click on that, and then you should see this toolbar here. So go ahead and do that, and then click on the text, like what you see here. Then click on the screen to create the text box, okay? And then we'll get going from there. All right, so how difficult do teachers find it to get students motivated with history class? Oh, good question. How can this workshop help me deliver instruction in a hybrid schedule? Okay, oops, sorry. I need my annotate tool so I can move some of these. It's not letting me do it. Sorry, guys. Okay, cab. No Uber, no cab. Worried about your kids, where things are located. I speak, teacher. Okay, with the annotate tool. Okay, what is a blended? Oh, we're going to talk about that. Good. Okay, so it looks like we've got some questions, and these are some of the ones. Where is Active Learning app? Active Classroom is not an app. It's a site. It's too robust to be an app. How can I apply this? Okay, so you're worried about them using this online. These are all questions that I'm gonna give you answers to today. So I love this. We're all on the same track. So excuse me, let me get through this. Okay, so, oh, I forgot to clear that. Can you clear it for me?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna identify characteristics of effective, blended, and remote learning. We're gonna learn the tools and strategies in Active Classroom to work with your students synchronously and asynchronously. Okay, so that means you'll do it remotely, blended, or even when you get back in the classroom, you can still use these same strategies. And then leverage the lessons that are in Active Classroom, because I have yet to find a series that I can't use in a blended or remote environment. All right, so we had someone ask about what is, let me get this out of the way. What are blended and remote learning? So here's a little visual of the blended learning. And that means that you're gonna have time when kids are working on the technology, either away from you, or it could be in stations, but then there's also gonna be some time for human interaction. Okay, so that's a blended type of learning. And then when you are actually working remotely, like what's happening in my district right now, we are not seeing the students unless they're on Zoom. No students are in our school buildings at all. That is remote, okay? So what I would like to do is I would like to know how you're beginning the school year. So are you beginning the school year with a blended model where you're gonna have some kids in? Are you beginning your year just remotely? Or are you not even sure yet? Has your school not really decided? So if you will please go to menti.com. When you get there, it's going to ask for a code. This is the code, 3572744.
I've also added it into the chat box, so you should be able to copy and paste to access the site.
So this is something that's really easy you can do. There we go, fully remote. And you're just going to type in the word. And as you do it, so you're just typing in remote, blended, or not sure. So if everybody will go and do that, remote, remote. Okay, there we go. Now, if you're not familiar with word cloud, every time someone types in the word, then it makes the word bigger the more people who type it in. So this is really great if you want to use it even for a speech, because the more word is used, the larger it gets. So it looks like that we have a pretty good match between remote and blended. Okay, but blended has come, more people have put in remote or blended. That's why they're looking, remote took the lead.
Carol, could you share your screen to where you're sharing your desktop rather than just the site?
I thought I was. I
I
apologize.
know you have more of those, so I want to interact with you, and I know everyone
I am
else.
so sorry. Thank you for letting me know. Can y'all see this now?
Much better.
Yep, sorry. Okay, so this is just an easy way, and you can reuse these slides. You can save them and download them later, one for each class. So I really like this. All right, so this is a word cloud. And I apologize that you couldn't really see it for a minute there. So now I'll get back to here. Usually I can just go back and forth on Zoom, but that's okay. All right, so we've got a good blend. So how do we be successful in this environment? And there was one word that kept coming up again and again, no matter what I researched, and it was prepare, prepare, and prepare some more. Up front, it takes a lot of preparation, especially because you have to front load with the students how they're going to access this content and the platform. So this takes careful planning. It's really important. What are the learning targets? And the learning targets have to be aligned to those learning standards. I know that I have friends who teach around the United States, and they are focusing on really the most important standards, because there's just so much, and what are we going to be able to work with our kids in order to help them be successful? And then we have to remember that social emotional learning. And what I really appreciate about active classroom that I think some people overlook is a lot of their images and their their text. You can tie that into perspectives. You can tie that into how are people feeling? What do you think this person in the picture would be saying right now? How does that make them feel? Because often students will reveal their own feelings in the ways they answer those questions. So those can be easy insights. And then clear expectations. The students need to know, while I'm working with this teacher on this Zoom, what is it she expects me to learn or master in this time? And then from this Zoom, what does my teacher expect me to turn around and be able to do on my own asynchronously? And detailed directions. And again, active classroom meets all of this criteria, especially with the detailed directions. It breaks it down step by step for your students. The way they have their lesson set up, you're going to see today how easy it is for students to work remotely, because the lessons in active classroom set them up for success by breaking everything down. And then the interactive discussion, And we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. And the discussion is actually set up as soon as you assign students lessons. So every time you assign lessons, a discussion is automatically generated for you. Okay, so let's go to Menti again. Different code. And this time what you're going to do is you're going to put in the code 19, 30, 65, and 8. Now, this one I'm asking, what subject do you teach? And if you teach more than one, then you can put in two different, let me share, where's my thing? You can put in two different subjects, because I know several teachers. There we go. Now, okay. So just answer what subject you teach. State history, we've got US history, world history, any world geography or government or psychology. There we go, human geography. And let me tell you, if you're an AP teacher, we have some excellent resources on Active Classroom. Oh man, that they are, the rigor is there. It's good. Okay. I love the way this poll generates. And I added all these images that are right in the Menti system. Okay. US history's up there, but poor little economics, sociology, government. There we go. Someone's the other. Okay. Okay. Oh, someone typed in pre-AP world. Okay. See, and you're using that annotate feature. I like that. All righty. Thank you. So, okay. So one reason why I asked that is as I'm going through information, I want to be able to share with you different things that I'm aware of with Active Classroom. Okay. Okay. So let's get started. When you go in to find out what kind of tools and options are available, I want to encourage you to start with activities. And you can see it's on the left screen. I've just put a square around it. From activities, you can get to just about anything you need, okay? So when you go into activities, this is what your screen is going to look like. Now, if you'll notice, there's a place for subject, era and theme, and series. I'm going to talk about this from the viewpoint of activity type. Because when we talk about getting our students interested, maybe you want to keep them engaged with the simulation, because those are great for the blended learning and for online learning. Maybe you just want an audio or a video. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you decision making, which has great scaffolds, and it really illustrates it, I think, the best. All of these have scaffolds, but I really like the way that the decision making series actually display it. So we're going to go in decision making with an activity type. Then what I did is it's hard to see over here. I cut it off a little bit. I put in immigration because that tends to be a topic that every content teaches, hits on at one time or another. And so all of this came up, okay, plus others, but I went to key decision. But every series that has any kind of decision making, cases and controversies, document-based, debating the documents, all those would be listed as well. So I went to key decisions because this is a great way for me to illustrate really quickly how we're going to look at actually working with the students. So I picked one that had to do on immigration. Now these readings are very short. This is it right here. I think there was one line after what I was able to snip. So that's the first thing. It's short. But also, if a student is working this remotely, asynchronously, how do you make sure that they have access to the content? Well, you click on this little icon, which I enlarged it here, and you will get, the students will get this toolbar. If you're not familiar with this toolbar, it's a game changer. What students can do, and I'm not live now, so it's a little bit challenging for me to show you, but all the students have to do is click anywhere on the words, on the reading, and click this hand, and it starts reading to them. If they highlight an area, they can click on the world and it translates. And I have mine set for Spanish, but we also have a Hmong community, and it's got that language. It's got Arabic. You should just see what languages. So you can, the student can actually go in and set that themselves. I can highlight a word. I can get a word definition. I can get a picture definition. I can just have it, I can click on one word and highlight it and have it read just the one word. So all these tools will support your student to getting access to the readings. So they've got access to the reading. That's great. That's easy. Let's talk about what your part is in helping them get what they need from the reading now that they have access to it. Okay, so here's just a fabulous tool, because this is once you've assigned it, this is a screen that comes up. So you could rename it and you could say part 1, or this might be the second part of the lesson or the third part. This one you'd only need 1. And you'd fill out these other things. But I want you to see here the custom highlights. Now when you click on highlights, the main idea, supporting evidence, those are always there. All you have to do is click the X and it'll go away. So here you can see I typed in the word cause. Click the drop-down menu to choose a color, and all I do is choose the color and click Add Highlight, and it adds over here. So why is that important? Okay, let's talk about it. Here are the comprehension questions to key decision. And you might think, so? Well, there are a couple of questions that say answer will vary. When you notice answer will vary, that means that there are different pieces within that reading that will either hint or give several options to answer that question. Most of these have something to do with inferencing. So when I go into highlight, I'm going to make sure that one of the highlights is you're for the proposition, you're going to highlight in green. If you find information in the reading that's against the proposition, I want you to highlight that in gray. And then I want you to be looking for why did people want to immigrate, and that's going to be in this color. Now, this will all drop down for the students and they'll be able to see it on their screen. But now, not only did that customized student toolbar give your student access to the content, now, because you've chosen specific highlights that have to do with how they're going to answer the questions and evidence they're going to need, now you've set up those kids who have difficulty figuring out where is that information. You are setting them up already to answer those questions. And all you had to do was go find those questions, and there it says, answers will vary. This is an easy thing to do, and the prep time is so minimal. Now, not only is there the wonderful highlight tool, then there are student instructions. What I like about the student instructions is that when a student opens a lesson, the first thing they see are the student instructions. So no more, I didn't know, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. All I typed out was, as you read, be sure to use the highlights for evidence that will help you answer questions after the short reading. And then I went ahead and added what those highlights were. So this is really easy. And then you're going to make sure you save the information down at the bottom. So already you could use this synchronously very easily, but this is something that you completely control, that you as the teacher can do to make sure that you are supporting students when they are working asynchronously. And you can see right here, students will complete this assignment. And I like key decisions for hooks, because that's something you can do to activate prior knowledge. So you could actually have them do that before you begin an assignment on immigration. All right. So we know what it looks like with a smaller key decision, but what if I still want decision making, but I want a longer lesson? So this lesson is called Debating the Documents, the series. And this is on immigration again. And I just want you to really look at how long this list of assignments is. And I want you to see if you release that to a student all at the same time, they're going to look at that list and they're going to run the other way like you've got COVID. So you need to make sure that you are really paying attention to how much you are releasing. But what I really like about this is not only do you have an introductory essay, but there's also a timeline with these. And what I like about the timelines is it's chunked out readings. So if you have students who are new to the English language, instead of actually assigning them the introductory essay, you may be able to give them the timeline and let them look at the pieces on the timeline to build some background knowledge instead of the longer essay. So that's one way you can differentiate, especially for your students who get smaller assignments. This is where you can make those changes. Okay. Now, here's what the timeline looks like. So you can see small little chunks, nothing that's overwhelming. And it is, you can scroll down when it's up there. It's a little longer than that, but it's small little chunks of reading. And they can go through and just highlight pieces like the main point. Well, I see it says Chinese Exclusion Act, so they might highlight that. 5 million immigrants, they'll highlight that. So they could just highlight those little bitty things that will give them an idea of what they're going to be learning. Now, when we're looking at debating the documents, now this is still debating the documents. And you can see over here on the left, we're looking at a primary source. There are 2 images. And remember when I talked about how the social emotional learning can be connected into images that are already in active classroom? Well, this one right here is a great example of that, with the dad, the mom, and the son sitting on a bench. You could even have the kids talk about, what do you think they're saying to each other? Where do you think they are? Or do you think they're at lunch? Do you think they're on their way on a lunch break, maybe somewhere from school? What do you think's going on? How do you think they feel? And lead into that social emotional with an image that you already have, that you have there, or even perspective. So do you think these people speak English? Because we're talking about immigration. Do you think that maybe people are staring at them as they walk by if they're not speaking English, if they're speaking their own language? And just get them the feel of what's going on and let them feel that emotion. So what I love about this, when you've got the 2 images, when you click on the image, you get just a little bit of a reading. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the visual documents 1 and 2, 3 and 4, comparing the documents and comparison essay. So here is the visual primary sources, documents 1 and 2. So it's just going to ask you, and you can see the guiding questions. Write a few sentences of dialogue that capture the thoughts and feelings of the members of this immigrant family on their first day in America. So that's all they're going to do. So is there really a right and wrong answer here? No, it's just getting the kids to flesh out, start thinking about, what am I looking at? And then the one about the biblical story of Noah, and they tell them what they want them to say about that. The immigrants, the lands, what are they fleeing? And then background information. It says list at least 3 key facts. Now, these facts are in a short little reading underneath the picture when you click on the picture. So after they've gone through and looked at those pictures, then they're going to do the same thing for documents 3 and 4. But here's the part that I really love. Now we're comparing. When kids see they have to compare things, they sort of wig out a little bit and they start thinking, oh gosh, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Well, here's the question. Which one do you think would be most useful to a historian who's talking about the impact of life of the American immigrants? And all they do is click 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. Very non-threatening. But what happens after that? Well, right here, I choose documents 3 and 4 because. So the stem is in there. You don't have to worry about creating stems yourself. They just write documents 3 and 4 because, and I just write why I think it would be useful to a historian. But here's the part where I think students are like, ah, dang it, I thought I was only gonna have to do 1. And it says, I did not choose documents 1 and 2. However, a historian still might use the documents in the following way. So it gets them thinking about, even though I didn't choose them, I still have to interact and think about them and synthesize what I'm thinking about here. And then it talks about bias within the sources, which I think is especially providential in this time in our history, what's going on. And then again, here's your documents 1 and 2. Okay, so it's asking another question here, and they document 1 or 2. So then we go on to the written. Now notice here we've got primary source 1. We're going to do a closed reading analysis. We're going to study the document, and then we'll go to primary source 2. Now I'm only going to show you primary source 1, and that's this one here, and I had to stretch it a little bit. So we're looking at, again, small little pieces of information here. Doesn't take a lot. And then here's the closed reading analysis. Again, they've set up the students to be able to work independently. They've got the questions here. And the questions, again, are just getting them to think through it. And then the study the document. So what are the main idea? What do you think is the author purpose? Now, if you teach reading and social studies, or if you go talk to your reading teachers, they're gonna get you a Christmas gift, because they're going to be so excited that you are reviewing within this expository content about main idea, about author, audience, and purpose, and background information. And I know we've got some AP teachers on here. I can tell you right now, she's probably thinking, thank you so much for talking about this, because this background information and historical context is really challenging for students, even in the AP classes. So this is already setting up students to really build those skills that they're going to need. And it's not just about social studies. It's about life. These are critical thinking skills that our students will need for life. And it's all a part of these lessons. And then they're going to compare. So they'll do the same thing with the written document 2. And they're going to decide, do I want document 1 or document 2? Which one do I think is better? They're going to say why they chose which one. They're going to have to interact with the second one again. And again here, active classroom reminds them about bias. Okay? And then the document-based question. Now, how you do this is up to you, but you can see here active classroom is actually laid out. So this is what your introductory paragraph is going to be like. Then the paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and it goes on. And you've got your DBQ statement here. Now, if you're a middle school teacher, then you may just want to have them write a really solid paragraph. First time they've been interacting with it, let's start out and let's just get them to where they're used to interacting with this content and writing. And you could use the ACE, answer, cite, explain. You could use the CER, claim, evidence, reasoning, which basically are the same thing. But you can use those to help guide them in what they're writing. Whether you do a full-fledged essay, if you have them do a newscast or a podcast, there are so many different things that you could do with this to have them actually show what they've learned and to answer the DBQ question. Okay, so let's talk about actually assigning. So you can see all the little check marks. That means it's been assigned. So if the teacher assigns this, the student sees this, and they run screaming. They don't know how they're going to be able to do it. But remember, this is where you have control. So here's an idea. Just select the visual primary sources, and then your student is just going to see those little assignments there. And we're going to lead in. So you would assign those maybe on day 1, come back, and then you can see here where we're going to assign just a little bit. So we're going to assign reading 1, and this is all that's going to be released that the student's going to see. And then we'll release this part. and then the student's going to see this. So instead of kids running the other way, these are the students you're going to get. Students who are focused, who are excited, and their social emotional well-being is being comforted, because now you've given them manageable pieces to actually work with synchronously or asynchronously. So I really want your thoughts on this. So there is something called Linowit, and we're going to put, Melissa's going to put the link in the chat for you. And if you'll click on that link, I'd like for you to explain how can you see these tools and options for you with your students in your blended or remote classroom. How can you see that with them? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to go to my Linowit. And I've got the directions on the Linowit. So if you're like, oh, wait, I didn't get that. I'm going to share it right here. So all you're going to do is when you get to the Linowit, you're just going to go to one of these little stickies and you're just going to click on it, pull it out, type in it, and post it. That's all you have to do, okay, to do your explanation. Now I'm going to delete this one, peel it off. So go ahead, go to the Linowit, click on a sticky, drag it to a space, and then type in, how will you use the tools and options in Active Classroom to support your students during remote and or blended learning? So I'm going to give you a few minutes so that you can think about that, and then what are you going to do? So think about the student toolbar with reading, with translating, having a picture dictionary and a word dictionary. Think about how you will be in looking at questions that go with readings and how you can manage that through the highlighting tool, the directions that will show up as soon as the lesson is opened up by the student. In fact, they have to close, they have to X your directions to access the lesson. So there's no way they can get around the directions. And then what about how you release, how much you release, and the scaffolds that are already built in to Active Classroom. And then you could think about the social emotional piece, you know, using the images. Oh my goodness, here they come. Okay, I'm gonna move some of these so we can read them all into Canvas. Okay, so provide specific directions, scaffold, I like that. Oh, I like write like a historian. Using highlights to help chunk their ideas, good. The playlist style organization, oh, I like that. Okay, now I see someone over here is asking about how to get Active Classroom into Canvas. You can use a link after you assign a lesson. There's a link that you can put right into Active Classroom. And then when the student clicks on that link, it'll take them directly to that classroom. And I can't really show you here. I'm a little over my 30 minutes, but I think Pam and Aaron are still on. And if you can hang for a few minutes, if Pam or them are available, there's also an export where you can put it. Stations and reviews, that is so true. Because even if you have several documents, you can even assign some documents to one group, and you can create groups in Active Classroom with your students that are already loaded up for the day. Your students are usually preloaded. That, I believe that's a feature that your district decides on. Okay, so someone else has that learning management system, and that's what Canvas is. If some of you weren't sure what Canvas is, it's also a learning management system like Blackboard. Oh, someone's playing. We got some writing there. Okay, now something I want you to see is down here in the bottom right of the screen. So we have pretty much everything in the same area, but I can move things around on the screen. Whoop. I got a new sticky. So I can, when you see the little hand, I can move this. So use the tools. Okay, sweet and short instruction. Toolbar, easier and fun for the students, highlighting text. Oh yeah, organize their thoughts clearly. That's one great thing about the scaffold and the stems. And then the breakout rooms will help in small groups. These are all great ideas. This is really great. And I can move my tool here to different parts to see where people have posted and make sure I don't miss anyone. Okay. Well, what I also like about Leanowit is I can keep it where it is and come back and use it with students. So let's finish up here. You all have been so patient. I really appreciate that. Okay, something I wanted to let you know in case you were not aware of it. When you click on the question mark in the upper right corner of Active Classroom, there is a student user guide that you can download. Now, something that's new is they've added the how-to videos for students. I'm very excited about that. So what some of my teachers were doing in the spring, because I downloaded the student user guide and I put it in my Google Classroom for my teachers. And then they put it in their Google Classroom and they were assigning the pages in the user guide for the students to get used to the tools so that when they got to Active Classroom, they would have like built a schema of how am I going to use Active Classroom. So that's something to think about as well, which I thought was a really great idea. All right, so one other thing that I really love, we talked about how discussions are automatically generated when you assign a lesson to the students. So those are automatically generated. And that will give you an opportunity to have your students discuss something that's already set up for you. You don't have to go into your learning management system and set up a whole nother discussion. You can actually do that synchronously or asynchronously, that the students can participate in the discussion. It could be the warm-up, or it could even be their exit ticket that they have to post and then respond to 2 different students by class tomorrow. And it's really pretty easy. So they're automatically generated. And then you can also create discussions under general. So here's a little picture of one that I did. And this shows you how they can not only respond, but they can put in links and images as well in their discussions, which could really set a point. So I have a question for you. This is a quick activity. Again, use your annotate tool on Zoom and pick a stamp, and then place a stamp. Like if you think audio would be good for blended learning or for remote learning, place a stamp on both of them or just one of them. So I'm just going to give us about 60 seconds to do this, and place a stamp wherever you think, which activities you think could be used blended, or which ones you think might lend themselves better to remote. What do you think? Oh, simulations are getting a lot of votes. Okay. And decision making, looking good for blended, not as much for remote. Okay. Okay, you've got 5 seconds left. Anything else? Okay, so let's find the answer, shall we? Well, the X's, and Melissa, if you can clear that for me, every single activity type that Active Classroom has can be used for remote, thank you, or blended learning. It depends on how you as the teacher leverage them. So the Atlas of US History, and there's an Atlas of World History, colorful, wonderful visuals, short little burst of text, also has pie graphs and charts and images. And there's a level 1 that has basic questions, and then level 2 has the increased rigor. If you're a geography anything, zombie-based geography is fantastic. And what it will also do is allow students to see how COVID may have spread, but doing it with that fun zombie geography. And then simulations. Have the students actually prepare offline. So you introduce it online, have them prepare offline, and then you actually have the simulation when you come back online together. And then the readings. You have all the support tools that are built in. The questions, you will actually decide what you want them to highlight and look for in the reading. It's all there. So thank you so much for being here. We've gone a little over our time, and I really appreciate you hanging in there with us. We at Active Classroom, we just appreciate everything you're doing. And really, our goal is to make sure that we're making it easier for you with your students and easier for your students. But I want you to keep in mind, Active Classroom is not just for blended or remote learning. Again, my teachers who have been using it for the past 4 years in middle school, they have at least 20% higher results on state testing than my other teachers who are not using it. And that's because the skills are built right in. The rigor is built right in. So don't reinvent the wheel. Use what's being given to you and make use of it. And also on October 18th, or the 10th, I'll be doing another webinar on using the discussion feature. So if you'd like to join us again, I would love to see you all. And Active Classroom is really good about sending out invitations to register for webinars, but also once they've been recorded, they also put them under the professional development piece that's icon that's in Active Classroom. So it's not like I'll never see this again. So you can go and look in Active Classroom under professional development and go to the webinars, and you can see the past webinars as well. So they really do everything they can to support the teachers and the students in the classroom.
Absolutely.
And that's all I have. Any closing thoughts?
Carol, you did a great job. You hit all those features that make Active Classroom so amazing, and you have stretched my brain and given me even more ideas. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You did a great job.
Well, thank you all for being here. And I just really want you to know that I'm praying for y'all. And this is going to be a great year. You have the ability to make this your best year yet. Don't let remote learning and blended learning, don't let COVID get in your way. Okay? We got this and we're here for you. So just know that. So have a
Carol, I wanted to say thank you so much for your presentation today. It was really awesome, and it looks like you got a lot of positive responses. I did hear one thing in passing about integration with Canvas, and I just encourage any of you working with Canvas, there is a downloadable instruction guide on the help page that talks about how to create those integrations with Canvas and embed the links. So there's there, and you can always contact us if there's anything more. I'll stay on the line if any of you guys have any additional sort of technical questions that you've been musing over beyond remote learning. But in the meantime, thank you again, Carol. Really a wonderful presentation. And thank you, Melissa, for your help.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful year.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Carol.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Hi, Aaron.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm turning on my video. Hi, I'm Mary.
Hey, Mary, welcome.
Good to see you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hot.
Thank you. Could you say a little bit more about Canvas and integrating it into Canvas? I didn't quite understand all of your.
Sure, Mary, what district are you in?
Arlington Public Schools. We have it as, it pops up in Canvas as a tool. However, you gave us a few more directions that didn't quite make sense to me.
Okay, so there's two components to the integration. One is we've made a connection between your school district and Active Classroom. So there's a way there's a secret and a key that are shared behind the scenes. So I think that's set up already. You as a teacher, though, if you want to create a link to an assignment, you would make the assignment, copy that link that comes up, and then you would go into Canvas and say, I want to add this as an external tool, and you go in there and then you copy and paste the link in there, and it should have the other information should already be covered. You need to say, I'm going to Active Classroom, and everything else should be fine. That should create a link within Canvas. When your students go into Canvas and they say, oh, okay, it's this week and I've got these 3 assignments this week. Oh, one of them is Active Classroom. They click on that link and then take them into Active Classroom. It should know who they are and it should put them in. They need to grade that. They need to complete the work in Active Classroom, and you need to assess their work in Active Classroom, organizing feature for where students go in. Does that make sense?
Yes. Will SpeedGrader work with it?
What reader?
SpeedGrader.
It's in Canvas.
So it will work. Is it
I don't think
similar
it's-
to other external tools in Canvas?
Yeah, I don't think it's connected. We'll look into that, but there's not a pass back of any grading.
Okay. Thank you so much.
This is that link that Aaron was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
After you assign the lesson, that's the link right there. Okay, that you're going to put in Canvas.
And your link in Canvas will actually be a little bit different. It'll have an LTI part of that URL. So depending on how your district is set up, that link actually gets set up differently. Give it a try, Mary, and email us if you have any problems, and we'll have somebody get on and work through whatever connections you need.
Thank you. And did you put
Have you
your
ever-
emails in the
Thanks for coming
chat?
out. Sorry?
Have you ever used the help email on the question page? Because if you ever email Social Studies Services, Active Classroom, they get back to you very quickly, very quickly. So if you're having any issues, that's a really great way to go.
Yeah, that's also on the help page, the contact us form.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I used Active Classroom last year for the first time. It worked well. Plenty of content. The issue we were having, of course, is that we were limited to how many assignments we could give students. And I found it to be a challenge because I couldn't grade everything that I wanted to grade. So this gave me, and I appreciate Carol, because this gave me a way to narrow down assignments in order to hit the main points, to hit the main targeted TEKs or whatever, and gives me an opportunity to do that. So I appreciate that. I'm going to take it. I know my district, I know how my people work. So it'll probably be kind of similar. It'll be similar, but I appreciate, the assistance in how to fashion the assignments. I like the translation part. I think that worked wonderfully well with a lot of my kids, and hearing the system read it back to them. So that helped out quite a bit. So the help portion, whoever had a question about assignments, the help portion, they get back to you really quickly in response to information. And I would say use that anytime you have any issues or questions. Found it difficult for students at first to kind of go back and recapture assignments. Can you kind of hit on that? I had some issues like if a kid got locked out of an assignment, is there a way to where I can not so much circumvent, but make sure that they get that without closing?
Sure, Kevin. So first of all, the students have access to their assignments until they submit them. Once they submit them, they're locked until you either unlock it for them, but we've moved the allow another attempt button right to the grading page. So on the same page where you would be assessing their work, there's a little button right there, allow another attempt. So if you're looking at their work and you see they didn't get enough right and they really need that, or they email you and say, hey, I submitted it and I didn't really mean to, you can just go right to them in the grading interface and click on that add another attempt. And then you can let them have another attempt just for the individual student or the entire class. It's up to you to decide. You can pick and choose. You've got that same interface. So that's that answer. I was curious, what did you mean by that you could only assign a certain amount to the students? Were you limited somehow by your district, or what does that mean?
Yep. I was limited by the district, which made it kind of difficult because there's so much rich information that I need to get to them. I kind of had to like use it as an enrichment. I had to use a lot of information for enrichment. Well, we know kids, right? They only want to be enriched so much. So I had to kind of look at it that way. So,
okay, Carol, does that sound familiar to you, that they're limited? What are the other demands that?
Well, that was TEA, Texas Education Agency, came out and really they basically said kids didn't have to do anything for the fourth 9 weeks. So some of them didn't. And in order to just keep them working, we were limited on how much we could release to the students to actually do.
Oh, this is a COVID situation, not a regular
for
one.
the spring.
Okay.
Now, TEA is on
That
board.
I understand.
They better be on. They better do assignments. That's your proof that they were in school, like in school, when we're 100% remote.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, we're back on track now, sir.
hey, I'm rolling. I'm just going to give it to them.
Little bits at a time. And if
That's awesome.
you've got a new group too, so you don't know your kids yet and just trying to get to know them. So keep that social emotional in mind too as you're working with your kids.
I love that you brought that up, Carol. That is so important. And I haven't really looked at it so much on that side until tonight. So I really appreciate you bringing that to light because it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, the adults need social emotional.
Yes.
Right. Oh, most definitely. More than kids.
Hey, 6 o'clock, let's have a happy hour.
Yeah, I'll take 3 doses of that one. Okay, listen, I need to go, guys. Kevin, it was nice to meet you. Mary, thanks for your questions. Really appreciate everything.
Carol,
Thank you,
listen to
everyone.
you.
Have
All
a
right.
wonderful day, wonderful year.
All right.
And Michael, I'll be seeing you.
I'll never forget the time I emailed help and Aaron responded. He's our chief learning
Okay.
officer. He's the co-owner of the company.
Yes, I've had him respond to one of mine because I guess they went to him. He said, so they weren't sure what you were talking about here. And I just want to clarify. And I'm like, well, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. Okay. So they're really great about clarifying and everything like that.
Well, Jacob, you made it to the end. You won the prize. Last one standing. You're muted.
So I didn't want to miss anything, but I appreciate everything. Thank you very much. I like.
You're very welcome.
All
Have
right.
a
Take
wonderful
care.
year.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Again, Carol, thank you so much for the inspiration. Oh, I needed you today in starting this year.
Okay, stop recording.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a good end, though.
I'm doing it.